how fair and bright, you'll shine with God's own truth and light, aglow with grace and mercy. So, this is one of my favorite hymns, as you can probably imagine. And it's not simply because it's one of the robust German chorales. They call this the queen of the German chorales. But it's not because of that alone. In fact, there's more to it than that. So we'll get to that. But I tell you about this hymn. It was published in a collection of hymns in 1599 by a man named Philip Nicolai, who was a pastor in the German lowland territory of Westphalia. Disaster struck in this small town of Olna, where he was the pastor, in 1597. A plague broke out, and then again, actually, in 1598. Over the course of a 6-month period, 1,300 people died in that small town. In July of 1597 alone, 300 people died, and then in August, on its heels, another 170 people died. The house where Pastor Nicolai lived overlooked the cemetery, where he had conducted all of the internments for the people that were in this town. It's a small town, and sometimes he did as many as 30 funerals a day during this time. So, I imagine there was a lot of grief and fear. And that's maybe why I'm sharing this with you. It's because this is a source, this song is a source of hope amidst the fear that is surrounding us. The parallels in our world and the world where Pastor Nicolai wrote this hymn are noteworthy. We find ourselves in a time of uncertainty and fearfulness caused by a virus that's we don't really understand, and is like the people in Olna also in the 16th century found themselves surrounded by sickness that they didn't really understand either. And we want reassurance in the midst of our uncertainty, just like the people in Olna did as well. They wanted comfort in the midst of their fear, just like we do too. This is natural. We shouldn't be ashamed of this at all. Fear is a natural human response to things when they're scary, when they feel like they're out of control and possibly harmful for us, that we might perceive that they would be harmful for us. We've evolved in order to survive with this mechanism of fear. God has literally hardwired it into us to be there. Yet we can't let fear be what directs our path. We can't stop simply at saying fear is natural and let it be that. Fear left to rule our hearts, minds, and hands will lead to a whole host of anxiety and selfishness and despair. Fear can be crippling. I recall a line from the first letter of John where it says, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out all fear." It's this love that we must hold fast to when fear sneaks in and wants to cause us anxiety, and when that anxiety bubbles up and rises up within us. It's the love of God that we must hold fast to. We love. We're able to love, and we can love, and we do love because God first loved us. Because God loved us, we need not cling to fear, but can cast our anxieties on Him no matter what betide us, day by day, as another great hymn says. God is still with us in the midst of it all and will accompany us to the end, even to the grave. We know that the light shines in the darkness, that bright morning star, how fair and bright, shines in the darkness. That light that is Christ shines in the darkness, and the darkness of despair, the darkness of anxiety, the darkness of uncertainty does not win the day. It can't understand the light of Christ that is full, aglow with grace and mercy. This hymn that Pastor Nicolai wrote O morning star, how fair and bright, is like so many other great hymns of the church that we find comfort in. Many of the church's greatest hymns of hope and trust in God were written in times of great turmoil and uncertainty. And it's easy to see why, I think, for us to look at that and answer the question, why might that be? Our relationship with God and Jesus, God's love divine, all loves excelling, the joy of heaven to come down to earth, Jesus, that is the relationship that we have in God, and it's a real source of comfort for us, and it never disappoints. It gives us stability in the midst of uncertainty, and it gives us certainty in the midst of turmoil. It doesn't disappoint us because it's been poured into our hearts by God's very self and the Holy Spirit, the ever-abiding presence of God's love with us wherever we go in life. And so as we face each new day, as we face each new tomorrow, no matter what it holds, whatever we face, whatever comes our way, we don't know necessarily, but we know that God's light leads us and that God's Holy Spirit is upon us. And so let us hold fast to that conviction. Hold fast to God's promise to always be with us, to never abandon us. God promises us that we shall never be alone.
Holy Spirit, enter in, and in our hearts your work begin, and make our hearts your dwelling. Son of the soul, O light divine, around and in us brightly shine, your strength in us upwelling. In your radiance, light from heaven now is given, overflowing gift of gifts beyond all knowing.